Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming this evening for a special event about Japanese tea and sweets. This program is in 3 parts. We have 2 presentations, one about Japanese wagashi and second about Japanese tea. After these 2 presentations, we will have a short Q&A with these guests. To begin this evening's program, I'd like to invite Councillor Morita to the stage to give opening remarks. Please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Japan Information and Cultural Center. My name is Mitsue Morita, and I'm the acting director of JICC. For the past 35 years, JICC has been hosting cultural events and educational programs to promote a better understanding Japan and its culture. And we are very excited to present to you the Wagashi and Ocha lecture event tonight. While you can experience culture in many ways, food is one of the best. It certainly is my best. Food reveals unique aspect of culture that you can enjoy, touch, and taste. Consider tea. Tea presents a universal sensory experience. The aroma, the warmth, the cups. Tea is enjoyed by people all around the world. In Japan, we have enjoyed tea for nearly 1,000 years. Japan's distinct culture flavor is alive in our tea culture, from the type of tea to tea ceremony. There are 2 essential ingredients, ocha, the tea, and wagashi, the Japanese sweets. The history and culture of both are intimately connected. Tonight's lecture, Ocha and Wagashi Experience Traditional Tea and Sweet, is part of our ongoing exhibition and upcoming workshops this month. We invite you to see, experience, and learn more about this unique culture ingredients with master and artisans, makers of Ocha and Wagashi. Tonight, we are fortunate to have Yoshitaka Nishino, President and Head Confectioner of Matsukawaya, here to present the history of wagashi, as well as the ingredients and techniques involved in crafting these exquisite form or work of art. Founded in 1862 in Nagoya, Japan, Matsukawaya is an award-winning confectionery dedicated to the important traditional Japanese culture of wagashi. Their wagashi, based on the beauty of nature and representing the 4 seasons, is not only delicious and pretty to look at, but it really enriches the lives of people who enjoy it. He will be joined by Ms. Stephanie Benefield, who will be the interpreter for him tonight. She herself is a Japanese tea instructor in the Omote Senke style, and so it brings her rich experience and expertise with ocha and wagashi, in addition to her linguistic talent. We are also very fortunate to have Michelle Brown, the co-founder of Teaism, and Leila Shin, her daughter, manager of Teaism. Teaism is a collection of tea house restaurants started here in Washington, D.C. by Michelle and Linda Newman. Named for the philosophy of tea culture expounded by Kakuzo Okakura, Teaism specializes in serving high-quality loose leaf teas with healthy, affordable meals. Focused on the global culture of tea, Teaism has had heavy Japanese influence since their first store opened in June 1996. If you haven't gone, you can visit Teaism at Dupont Circle or across from Lafayette Park, at Union Market, or in Penn Quarter. Matsukawaya also has a new Teaism shop in Penn Quarter. So this evening, Lera will be giving the presentation on tea. There is a saying, eat dessert first. So following the lecture, we invite you to enjoy refreshment of Ocha and Wagashi, provided by Matsukawaya, Myokoen, the traditional Japanese tea company, and Teaism. So thank you very much for coming tonight despite the very cold weather. And please join me in welcoming all our special guests and presenters for tonight's event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morita. And now I'd like to invite Yoshitaka Nishino, the President and Head Confectioner of Matsukawaya, and Ms. Stephanie Benefield to come to the stage for the presentation about Japanese wagashi, please.
皆さんこんばんは、名古屋から来ました、お菓子どころ松川屋老舗の西野と申します。本日はどうぞよろしくお願い申し上げます。
Very nice to meet you. I'm very happy to be here from Nagoya, Japan. I am working and in charge of the Matsukawaya confectionery and very happy to meet you.
それでは最初に、お菓子の歴史をお話をさせていただきたいと思います。
I'd like to start out with explaining the history of the Japanese sweets.
古来お菓子というものは、今のようにお砂糖を使ったものではなくて、フルーツと主に、栗とか、どんぐりであるとかそういった種子、この2つを、お菓子というふうに、呼んで食べておりました。
The Japanese word for sweets is kashi, and originally this word was comprised of two different parts. The first part comes from fruit, the first character means fruit, and the second character means seeds.
この和菓子という言葉なんですが、こちらが、使われるようになったのは西暦の1868年からでございます。この1868年というのは、ちょうど日本が、明治時代開国をした年になります。
The word wagashi, or Japanese sweets, first appeared about 1868. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with Japanese history, but that was the year that after 400 years of basically being a closed country, Japan opened back up to trade with other countries, and Japan began to use the word wagashi to indicate Japanese sweets.
ここでその和菓子の、素晴らしさと、その持つ、最大の、凄さというものを、ご紹介をさせていただきたいと思います。
And I'd like to explain a little bit about what makes the wagashi different or unique as opposed to sweets in other places.
和菓子は、五感の芸術品というふうに、呼ばれております。
We could easily say that the Japanese sweets, wagashi, were actually comprised of 5 different aspects of our senses.
この五感といいますのは、視覚、それから嗅覚、味覚、触覚、聴覚、こちらの五感を意味いたします。
And what I mean is the various human senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing.
そしてこの和菓子が、五感の芸術品と、そのように、言われる由来なのですが、当然視覚の部分では、見て美しいという和菓子ですね。
First of all, when you think about sight, when we look at the wagashi, we want to think how beautiful it is.
そして次に嗅覚、当然ながら、お菓子でございますので甘いいい匂いがいたします。
And then focus on the smell of the wagashi, you will be able to sense how sweet it is.
そして、味覚、当然ながら、美味しい甘いお菓子でございます。
And then when we taste it, it'll be delicious.
それから次に触覚でございますが、お菓子の、生地によって、歯触り、また舌触りというものが変わってまいります。
And then when we taste the wagashi in our mouth, we'll feel the texture on our teeth and also around our mouth. Different types of wagashi have different feelings inside the mouth.
そして最後に聴覚なんですが、こちらが、和菓子が持つ最大の魅力でございまして、魅力でございます。
One of the probably, in fact, the most important attractive point about the wagashi is related to hearing.
でこの、聴覚が最大の魅力と言われる最大のゆえんは、お菓子にそれぞれ名前がついておりまして、そのお菓子には全てにおいて、情景とそのお菓子のストーリー、物語があります。
Usually each of the wagashi has a name associated with it, and based on that name, often it'll be related to things from our past or from stories that we've heard, something that we have in our memory. And hearing the name will help us focus on that and remember that.
でこの人間が持つ五感のすべてを、使った、食べ物というものは、和菓子を置いて世界中にはございません。
In fact, probably there's no other type of sweet anywhere in the world that uses all of the five senses other than the wagashi.
そして、和菓子というものは、人間の、人の生活の中のすべての、行事、こちらに密接に、つながっております。
Another interesting facet of wagashi is that it is related to us throughout our lives, from the time we're born through all of our activities until the time that we die.
こちらの写真のように、生まれた時、また、子供の時の行事であったり、結婚式であったり、当然ながら最後には、お葬式の時にも、和菓子というものは、使われております。
And as you can see on the screen, there's a wagashi that is related to a child being born, and there's a wagashi related to children. There's Children's Day in Japan, as I'm sure you all are aware, and then some wagashi that are used at wedding ceremonies.
こちらの記事が、まだこちらは一部ではございますが、人間の、人の生活において、いろいろな行事があるわけなんですが、それぞれの行事において全て、使われる、お菓子のことが、書いてあります。
This screen is pretty detailed. It has a lot of explanation of the various times in our lives when we would be able to make good use of the wagashi. For example, of course, as we mentioned before, at a wedding, at a birth, at a special day for children, and then later on, as time goes on, people get older, 60th birthday, so forth, and then later at the time of a death and the funeral and the commemoration ceremonies. All these times people use wagashi.
ここで、和菓子を作るにあたって、秘密とまでは言いませんが、ちょっと特別なお話をさせていただきたいと思います。
And I'd like to discuss a little bit about how we make wagashi and explain some of the things that are very important in that.
和菓子は、多くの色を使います。かなり色鮮やかな、お菓子が、多くございます。
A lot of the wagashi use various colors, and many of you have probably seen them. Many strong or bright colors, and color is a very important aspect of wagashi.
でこのお菓子の色をつけることができるのは、長年、経験をした上級職人のみでございます。
So we ask only the wagashi craftsmen or experts who have been making wagashi for a very long time to select the colors and to apply the colors to the wagashi.
というのは、人というのは、感情の生き物でございます。怒っている時というのは色が強く、濃くつきますし、悲しいことがあれば色が薄くついてしまいます。
And we're all human beings, we all have emotions, and those emotions change from day to day. And for example, if a wagashi expert that's making the wagashi were to become angry or excited, probably the color would turn out to be too strong. If he or she felt really sad one day, maybe they wouldn't feel like putting as much color in, it would become pale.
絶えず、和菓子を作るときはその平常心でもって、作ることが求められ、それができるのが、長年経験した、プロの職人でございます。
So we need someone who's very stable and who's able to consistently apply the right kind of color to the wagashi every day.
そして先ほど、五感の芸術品というお話を、させていただきましたが、当然ながら、作る私たちも、絶えず五感を使っております。
And I mentioned before that wagashi is really a work of art based on our five senses. And in fact, when we're making them, this is true too.
そして毎日、作るときに、その日の気温、室温、湿度というものを肌で感じながら、五感で、お菓子を作っております。
So every day the weather is different, the temperature is different, the humidity is different, and we feel these differences through our skin. And for those of us who are making wagashi, it's very important to pay attention to that.
そして、こちらから、最後になりますが、皆さんでご提案を、いろいろと、させていただきたいと思います。
This is our last screen for today, and I wanted to make a suggestion and proposal to you all.
人というのは、何かを食べたり、飲んだりということなしで、ずっと話をしていくことはできませんし、また、お菓子とか、お茶があることによって会話も弾んでくると、そのように、思っております。
I really believe that it's impossible for people to get together and have any kind of significant conversation without eating and drinking. And if we are able to have wagashi and tea, something to eat and drink, it really will help the conversation to blossom.
また甘いもの、お菓子を食べた時っていうのは、ほとんどの方が必ずにこやかになります。怒ってお菓子を食うことはできませんので、そういった、にこやかに、過ごす時間を少しでもご提供を、させていただきたいと、そのように思っております。
And I really think it's important to have something sweet and something to drink and enjoy each other. I think it's impossible to be angry and try to eat sweets, and so no matter what the circumstances might be, as we would be having tea and sweets, certainly a good effect would come to everybody participating in the conversation.
そして最後になりますが、お菓子の、本当に一番美味しい食べ方というのは、愛する人、大好きな人と一緒に、食べていただく、こちらが一番、お菓子の美味しい食べ方だと、そのように思っております。
And the most delicious way to enjoy wagashi is to have it with someone that you're very fond of and that you like and enjoy being with.
以上でございます。ありがとうございました。
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And now for the next part of the program. We will hear about the history and the culture of Japanese tea today. To present, we will have Lira Singh, manager of Teaism. Please welcome her to the stage.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing? Thank you for braving the weather and being with us today. So my name is Leela Singh. I am the manager of the Teaism tea shop in Penn Quarter. Maybe some of you all have visited us. And I'm also the daughter of Michelle Brown, who's one of the co-owners and co-founders of Teaism. I have been working as a manager at Teaism in some capacity for over 11 years. And before I jump into the talk, I want to give a quick introduction. Since our founding in 1996, we've worked to introduce Americans to high-quality loose-leaf tea. We want to help America understand that there's a vast world of tea outside of the popular understanding, and that there's so much more to tea out there than just Lipton tea bags and Southern sweet tea. So over the last 21 years, we've been lucky enough to contribute to a time when American appreciation for tea has really taken off, and both here in Washington as well as in the rest of the country. But even as Americans are eager to learn about and enjoy tea, we've seen a lot of misrepresentations and misconceptions about tea make it into the mainstream. And to remedy that, we have conversations with our customers every day. And we make a point of offering pure, unadulterated, and unblended teas with the idea of respecting the leaf, and also with the idea of developing our customers' palates a little bit. Before I go any further, I do also want to pause here and give a little bit of a disclaimer. One, we are not Japanese, in case you didn't notice. Number two, we are not masters of the Japanese tea ceremony, nor do we go on buying trips to Japan, though we wish we could. We will one day, I'm sure. But we have been fortunate enough to develop what are some really great relationships that allow us to carry what we believe are some of the best Japanese teas available in the US. And we are deeply influenced by Japanese culture in our concept, in our name, which comes from Okakura Tenshin's Book of Tea, in many aspects of our menu, and in things like the Japanese tea chests that line our walls. We have spent the last 21 years weaving aspects of Japanese tea culture into our business that offers tea from all over the world. We're proud to offer sencha, genmaicha, matcha, hojicha, gyokuro, and even sobacha. We've spent time learning about Japanese teas over the years, and so we have accumulated some thoughts and impressions about Japanese tea in America. And that's why we're especially honored and grateful and humbled that the JICC asked us to be here today and offer up our perspective. So what am I going to discuss? I spend every day in the tea shop, and I could talk to you all day about brewing times and temperatures and prescribed measurements, and I'm happy to do that, but I'm not here to talk to you about that today, and I'm actually here hopefully to talk about something that I think is a lot more interesting, because really you should brew the tea as strong as you like it. What we want to talk about is what makes Japanese tea special. Tea arrived in Japan through China, and Japan made tea its own, and it developed a distinct tea culture and tea processing methods. In the Japanese tea ceremony, stone-ground green tea of the highest grade, known as matcha, is served in a secular but spiritually meditative environment. These highly choreographed ceremonies can last for hours and are recognized as an important part of Japan's cultural heritage. The story of how the practice of tea in Japan developed is really pretty unique, and I hope I can do it some justice here in my explanation. As I mentioned, tea first arrived in Japan through China. And according to Chinese legend, the tea plant Camellia sinensis was discovered over 4,000 years ago. but the first written references to tea drinking in Japan appear in the 800s. By the 1100s, Buddhist monks and scholars were introducing the tea plant and tea drinking to Japan more widely. At that time, the Chinese elite were enjoying a pulverized and whisked tea beverage at parties with particular rules about preparation and etiquette. And if that sounds at all familiar to you, that's because that is the root of what is now the formal Chanoyu ceremony in Japan. But bear in mind that the powdered Chinese tea of the 12th century was grown and processed differently than Japanese matcha is today. And the whisked method of tea preparation in China fell by the wayside in favor of steeped leaves. Back to Japan. While tea in Japan was first enjoyed by priests and nobility as a medicinal beverage, eventually tea gatherings spread further among the upper classes and took on their own uniquely Japanese aesthetics and cultural significance. By the mid-1500s, Japan was developing methods of shade-growing teas, and that changed the tea leaf's flavor profile and marked the birth of Japan's matcha and gyokuro teas. Around that same time, Japanese merchants had begun to create something that was truly their own and very different from the older Chinese tea ceremonies. Tea history scholar Kristen Surak, who's the author of Making Tea, Making Japan, Cultural Nationalism in Practice, writes that the merchant class prepared tea in smaller spaces for 3 or 4 invitees in a setting of carefully constructed intimacy and conviviality. While the focus of aristocratic tea gatherings at that time were geared more towards the appreciation of Chinese teaware being used, and the attendants were preparing the tea in the back rooms, Surak notes that merchants and wealthy commoners incorporated more accessible local items in a creative juxtaposition with their other more valuable treasures, and they themselves began preparing the tea before the guests. And so with the host also on display, the tea ceremony shifted from an event to a practice. And value shifted to the stamp of the person responsible for inventing a singular experience permeated by his individual taste, personal style, and attention to social graces. Simply put, serving tea became the highest form of hospitality. Now, the 1500s also saw other key developments in Chanoyu. Influential tea masters of the time, like Senno Rikyu, elevated rustic simplicity, purity of heart, connection with nature, and quiet enjoyment as central to the ceremony. Senno Rikyu and his students also helped to popularize asymmetrical, rough, and imperfect teaware, which came to be highly prized, thus creating what became known as wabi tea. But simplicity is rarely simple. This rustic, but at the same time elite pursuit created a space for the rulers of Japan, for the warrior class, and for wealthy merchants to network and consolidate social, economic, and political ties. During that same time, daimyo warlord Oda Nobunaga used the tea ceremony utensils of his defeated rivals to establish and legitimize his own authority. Senno Rikyu served as a tea master, first for Nobunaga and later for Nobunaga's replacement, Regent Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and was tasked as acting as a political intermediary for his sponsor lords. Hideyoshi, while influenced while Senno Rikyu's teaching, was ordered to construct a completely golden tea room. So that's really not very rustic, even though he was influenced by those rustic ideas. And so I think that these stories get at some of the key contradictions that are embodied in the tea ceremony's rich history. Surak again does a good job of breaking down those contradictions. Chanoyu is meant to be a Zen renunciation of the material and mundane world, and in many ways it is. but it is also a space where extremely expensive tea equipment serves as a social signifier. The ideals of equality, peace, harmony, respect, and tranquility are all infused into the tea ceremony, but power has often been reinforced through the ceremony. And as such, it's my sense in doing this research that Japanese tea culture has always been subject to a sort of internal tug of war. Opulence versus simplicity, tradition versus spontaneous artistic innovation, rules and etiquette versus Sen no Rikyu's emphasis on directness of approach and honesty of self. I don't mean to say that any of this is necessarily bad, because every cultural practice everywhere in the world exists within its own social context. And tea itself in Japan has also evolved since those early days. So another major jump in tea in Japan occurred in 1738, when Soen Nagatani developed the process for steam drying leaves, a little bit of what you might have seen on the video earlier on. And this gave today's Japanese teas their bright green and grassy characteristics. And because of Japan's unique growing and processing innovations, Japanese green tea is something truly unique in the world. In the 20th century, the tea ceremony has gone from being a largely male-dominated activity to becoming a practice much more inclusive of women. And even the most powerful participants in the tea ceremony must kneel and express humility. So there's a lot of, changes that have happened and a lot of good things to be said about the tea ceremony. After World War II, Chanoyu was the key to the country's process of redefining itself as a peaceful society. And later on, the Yorosenki Tea Schools International Association, founded in 1985, created a statement of intent, and that still stands today, and it's nothing less than to contribute to the realization of world peace through tea. And so I think that's a pretty far cry from, prominently displaying the tea utensils of your vanquished opponents. So there's evolution there, I think. And another amazing aspect about Japanese tea culture that I haven't touched on yet is what the Omotosenke school of tea refers to as the handing down of a living culture. By preserving the tradition of the tea ceremony, Japan has been able to preserve a whole array of exquisite crafts along with it. To name just a few, the handmade umbrellas used in outdoor tea ceremonies, the variety of ceramic ceremonial tea bowls, the hand-carved bamboo tools, the flower arrangements and hand-painted scrolls, the handcrafted wagashi sweets, the architecture of tea rooms, not to mention the craft that goes into tea growing and processing itself. So taken together, Japanese tea culture has supported an incredibly rich range of traditional artisanship. We would be wrong to talk only about the tea ceremony, though, which is what I've mostly done. Teas that require a brewed leaf, like sencha, gained popularity in Japan as a response to the rigidity of the matcha tea ceremony, and they were intended to provide a more free and relaxed space for socializing. Genmaicha, green tea with toasted rice, was once considered a poor man's tea or a tea for the lower classes because the rice was added to stretch out one's tea stores, but now that's something that's widely enjoyed. Warming, toasty hojicha is charcoal roasted in porcelain bowls and served during and after meals for its digestive properties. Today in Japan, tea is a common courtesy, always offered to guests. Elaborate tea ceremonies can't be enjoyed daily, but pausing to drink tea in the morning and afternoon is a practice that is now woven into Japanese life. At the risk of romanticizing, I believe that Japan's tea culture understands something that Western cultures, even globalized Western cultures, may struggle to grasp. Tea is not just a commodity. Tea is hospitality, warmth, a connection, a portal, an opening to relationship with others and to oneself. Drinking tea eases conversation, and its softening effects allow us a gentle way to begin moments that might otherwise be stressful. Moments like beginning our day, beginning a work meeting, or time spent facing solitude. That being said, Tea consumption in Japan is changing. Domestic consumption of loose-leaf teas has been decreasing in favor of the convenience of bottled teas and the novelty of craft coffee. Japanese tea farmers and merchants have had to look outwards, and luckily enough, Japanese tea is booming abroad. According to Japan's Ministry of Finance, revenue from tea exports has more than doubled when compared from 2011 to 2016. And as a small business in the US, we have observed this change for ourselves, as more and more customers are reaching out to us to specifically request Japanese teas. I'm not sure what all of this will mean for Japan, and I cannot claim to know. But from my experience at Teaism, it seems to me that if Japan's loose-leaf tea industry wants to gain additional footing here in America, then Japan's tea traditions must be demystified for our better understanding. Americans need to understand, for example, what makes a high-grade ceremonial matcha different from the ground green tea powder that goes into the matcha lattes that you can get in so many coffee shops. But I am encouraged every day by the conversations that I have with our curious, thoughtful, intelligent customers. And when I am able to make brewing tea and matcha preparation less intimidating, and perhaps give guests a bite of monaka or yokan or raw wagashi to accompany their tea, then Americans fall in love. And on that note, happy early Valentine's Day, and thank you for listening. And I hope you all visit us at Teaism Penn Quarter.
Thank you, Ms. Sim. Now we will prepare for our Q&A. So please just a moment. Okay, now we will have our Q&A with our special guest. First, I'd like to invite President Nishino, Ms. Benefield, and Ms. Singh to the stage, please. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, and we will bring the microphone to you. Any question? Okay, please.
Okay, I hope this works. I have so many, but I'll limit myself to two. So first about the Wagashi. So I don't pay for cable, I guess I'm cheap, but I connected my air antenna. I was happy to get NHK World free over the air. And I really like the travel blogs. And I guess one thing that comes up a lot is how different prefectures or different regions have different tastes or textures with respect to food. With that said, I'm wondering, as far as Wagashi goes, if the coloring or the texture changes across the country. That's one question. And second question is, one of the things I like about Japan is how minimalist sometimes and simple the culture and design and decor could be. So now that you told about this tug of war between different ways of maybe enjoying tea, I was wondering, is it like a chicken and the egg in that did the tea ceremony make the culture that way, or was the culture that way already? And that's why the tea ceremony is the way it is. Thank you.
和菓子なんですが、それぞれ地方によって今ご質問があった通り色は違います、形も変わります、そして名前も変わっていきます。なので、 同じお菓子であってもかなり違いが出ますので、いろいろ日本、回ってみていただけると楽しいんじゃないかというふうに思います。
To start out with the first question that you asked about the differences in different parts, perhaps, of the country and wagashi, yes, absolutely. As you go across Japan, the colors will be different, the shapes will be different. You may even find the names of the wagashi will be different, and even if a particular shop in a particular location is making a certain type of wagashi, if you were to go to another location, you'll probably find something similar, but it'll be different. And so you can go all around Japan and enjoy so many different types of wagashi. It's a wonderful opportunity, really, to see different things. And the second
Hello? Okay. So to answer, I really like those two questions, by the way. And to answer your question from my perspective, the first, simplest way I would say it is I think it's the society that formed it, and that would be the chicken laying the egg. But as I was sort of researching for this speech, I did come across a couple different references. One was sort of saying that tea was brought to Japan, but then within a couple hundred years after that, relations with China were cut off, and so they went into this period of being separate from China. So that was kind of a point when Japanese society really rolled with it and kind of made it their own thing. And there was also this sort of not so much of a focus initially on the conviviality that came along with the Chinese tea ceremony as much as this reverence for the really amazing teaware that was also coming over. So I think that's part of the root of, when you go into a tea ceremony, you have to look at all of the fancy things and say how beautiful they are. I think that's probably a little bit part of that. And then the last bit was, I forget, but if I see you in the reception, I'll try and remember. Thank you. Stephanie, did you have any thoughts about that aspect? Or?
お茶と和菓子というのはどちらかというとすごく相性がいいものでございまして、でお茶が入ってきたというのは、今日のプレゼンテーションや冒頭にもお話がありましたが、ちょうど12世紀の頃になるわけなんですけども、今のお茶とは昔はかなり違ってまして、やっぱり薬との扱いが大きかったんですが、ただやはり日本はすごく、戦争ばっかしてた国内事情があったんですが、それが平和になってくると同時にやっぱり礼節、礼儀、そういった作法、そういったものを学ぶようになってきまして、そういった中でお茶というものの格式、そういったものから今の形の流れになってきたという部分もあると、そのように伺ってますけども。
Of course, we were talking today about wagashi, but also we mentioned in both of the presentations the tea. And one very important reason is that, of course, sweets and the tea really go together so well. They're a very nice fit. When you think, though, about it more historically, probably it was around the 12th century that tea started really gaining increased popularity. Originally, it was used as a medicine, and then by the 12th century, people started drinking it because they enjoyed the taste. and enjoyed the atmosphere of getting together with people under various circumstances. And then later, as time went on, some procedures were established that made it easier and really more efficient to prepare the tea. And eventually also then, as we came into the 19th century, then Japan opened up again, and there were more influences that came in to change. So it's a continual sort of dance back and forth between the culture and the tea and the related activities, including wagashi.
Okay, other question. Okay.
Thank you. When did sugar become inexpensive enough to go into wagashi as we know it today?
和菓子でお砂糖を使うようになったのはもう本当にまだ、ここどうでしょう200、300年の話でございます。で、その古来の日本はその砂糖の代わりに、使ってたものっていうのが、あるわけなんですが、それはちょうど、7世紀ですね、7世紀の頃からその砂糖に代わるものを使っておりました。で、その砂糖というもの名前自体が、当然新しいものなんですが、本当この200、300年の話でございますね。和菓子に、お砂糖を使うようになったのは。
Probably it's been about the last 200 or 300 years that sugar has been used in the wagashi. And prior to that time, at least from about the 7th or 8th century, there were other things that were used in place of sugar to make the wagashi sweet. But sugar is a relatively new ingredient and only been the last 200 or 300 years.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for your time. My question is related to, I guess, it's nice in D.C. I think the first time I saw Wagashi was this year when it came to Union Market. They had a stand there, and it's great. But my question is, oftentimes the idea of 5 senses and taking your time with Wagashi and tea. Americans, we just tend to eat a bunch of M&Ms and call it a day. How have you, first for Teaism, how have you seen kind of bringing in something like tea where you want to sit down working with a Western audience where that might be, we're more fast food orientated, versus in Wagashi as it becomes more exported? How has, I guess, the Japanese culture struggled with kind of the Western importation of fast food, fast sweets, fast drinks, and do you see that kind of change Japan over time as it's changed plenty since the opening?
Thank you. That's a really shockingly thoughtful question. I feel like you just touched my heart there. I think that's been really interesting for us. It's been an interesting experience because we are a fast casual, and I personally have been talking people's ear off about wagashi ever since Matsukawaya approached us and we started doing this pop-up with them, because the first time that I tasted a raw wagashi that Nishino-san had made and I had it with a sip of matcha, it was like time stopped for me. You know, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've seen the light, I'm converted, this is what I'm about. And I feel very lucky though that we have a really, really sort of unique set of customers, I think, in the Washington D.C. area. We have a lot of writers. We have a lot of people that come and they sit down to do some work. And so my mom always says that tea is a really good filter. So the fact that we don't serve coffee, it means that the people that are coming through our door are already in a place that, yeah, we're doing food quickly, but ultimately they're also in a sort of state of mind where they're maybe more open to slowing down. And because we offer teas to pair with the wagashi, it makes perfect sense for us to be offering. But there is a little bit of a tension there, we would love to be able to offer people to come and sit down and have a bowl of, freshly whisked matcha and a raw wagashi and to have that really sublime experience. But because we're a fast casual, it's a little bit hard for us to figure out the logistics of how to do that, So we've been doing all of these events with Matsukawaya where either me or my mom are personally whisking for, up to 25 people or so. But the idea of training, all of our staff on how to whisk matcha and then explain to the person, right, like, you have to sit down and drink this right away before it settles out, and don't talk to people, just drink it. And like, it's something we're chewing over. I hope that helps answer the question a bit. Thanks. Frustration for me has been when I talk to people about wagashi that I say, it's the sweet rice bean, sweet bean paste with a rice flour outside, and they go, oh, like mochi. And I'm like, yeah, and actually they're making on the weekends, they're making freshly made mochi. It's this incredibly chewy, beautiful thing. And I tell people and they go, oh, okay. Like, I can get my frozen mochi at Whole Foods or whatever. And so, yeah, that is definitely something that we come up against, but I hope by talking to people more and more about it and offering people the experience that sort of mindset will change. And I think Washington is the city that people are looking for opportunities to slow down and take care of themselves. So hopefully that'll help.
おそらく日本に来ていただいたときにおそらく日本でびっくりすることもあると同じように当然ながら私もアメリカ来たときにびっくりすることもありましてちょっとこれじゃあちょっとノーコメントでお願いしたい。
Probably, if you were to come to Japan and visit, there would be a lot of things that would be surprising to you, just like when I come to the United States for this visit, there's a lot of things that are very surprising to me.
Any other question? This gentleman. Yeah.
Thank you. I have a couple questions about the wagashi. So I was wondering, how long does it take for a apprentice to become a wagashi apprentice to become a master, and what is the system like? And considered as a very traditional industry, is it experience a decline, or is it difficult to recruit people to be an apprentice? And I guess the last question is, the recipe, has it been evolving? Are there certain recipes that has been hundreds of years you keep making, or are you constantly inventing new flavors?
私どもの会社は、お店はですね、どなたでもお越しいただいても構わないというふうに思っております。また何年でお菓子が作れるようになるか、というのはもうそれはその人次第ですので、その人に、情熱と努力、この2つがあれば、年数は早いですし、もうその人次第によってできるかできないかは変わります。でまたレシピの方なんですが、昔からの黄金レシピというものがあるわけなんですが、若干変わっております。若干変えております。またこれは変えていかないといけないものだというふうに思っております。
Matsukawaya as a company has been in existence for a long time, and from the president's point of view, anybody that he would welcome anybody who would like to join the company, become an employee. And with regard to your question about how long does it take to start out as an apprentice and then eventually become an expert, it depends a lot on the individual. And if someone is very interested and passionate about learning how to make wagashi and also has the time and the inclination to put a lot of effort forward, then those are the two main characteristics that we look for in wagashi experts. So if someone had that, they probably could become an expert faster than somebody who was not quite as passionate or didn't have as much time to spare. As far as the recipe goes, there are very ancient old recipes, but we change these maybe very slightly, but we do change them from time to time.
Due to time limitation, so we have two more questions. One, please. Yeah. Please.
You alluded earlier to the notion of pairing different types of teas with different types of wagashi. I wonder if you could explore that just a little, either of you could explore that a little bit more, of the underlying concepts as to what types of teas you pair with what type of wagashi.
Impression is that it's mostly matcha that is served with wagashi because that's kind of how it started out, and we've done a couple things with these guys where I've gone, hey, let's serve some hojicha, and they go, no. So I'm not so sure about the pairing, but I personally think there's probably a lot of scope for some really, really cool and interesting pairings, also like with teas that aren't necessarily Japanese, but that will probably be, exploration for future days. That's my understanding, but Nishino-san, I don't know.
当然ながらその相性というものがあるんですが、逆に当然ながらお茶も香りを楽しむものと、その温度差で楽しむものと色を楽しむもの、またお菓子もそうなんですが、食感で楽しむもの、匂いで楽しむ、見て楽しむもの、これはまだいろいろバラバラであるわけなんですが、その中で何が一番いい相性かというのは、これは逆に皆さんで見つけられた方が楽しくていいんではないかと、そういうように思います。
There are a lot of different types of tea, and the teas are different from the point of view of the smell, of the temperature at which they're served, and in fact, even just looking at them. And I mentioned that in the presentation about the important aspects of wagashi with regard to the five senses. It's the same idea with the tea. And really, whatever appeals to you or whatever you feel goes well together is what you should enjoy.
Okay, last question. If you have any question, please. No? No question? Okay.
Can you talk about the relationship between the names of wagashi and poetry? Thank you.
「先ほどお菓子の中で五感の中で聴覚というものをご説明をさせていただいたわけなんですが、その中に裏に物語が全てあると、そのように申し上げたわけなんですが、 日本も古来からその歌を読む文化がございます。その歌というものは当然ながら自然を題材にして読む歌が多く存在するわけでございます。そして和菓子のモチーフというものは自然がモチーフになりますので、そういった歌と一緒にその歌を引用したお菓子を作るということも多々ございます。またその歌の中で使われる一言、その一言をこちらの方でそのコンセプトを増幅することによって多種多様なお菓子を作る、そういったこともございます。
In the presentation, I mentioned the five senses, and the last one was hearing. And I said that sometimes the wagashi have names. Actually, to expand upon that a little bit, Japanese people have been writing poetry for many centuries, and there's usually very close relationship in the poem to some aspect, at least, of nature. And actually, the wagashi also is very focused on nature as an important motif. So sometimes there would be some phrases or words that would come out of famous poems that would be attached to the wagashi as a name, and would be a good way for people to be reminded of the poems.
Okay, thank you very, very much, President Nishino, Ms. Singh, and Ms. Benefield. And also thank you for coming all. Thank you very much. So this is all. And now please enjoy the reception in the gallery provided by Matsukawaya, Miyoko, and Teaism. Thank you for all again.